In the previous episode on bubble sort, you had understood that these were the steps which helped me to sort my numbers in the ascending order. And in this episode, we need to figure out how to achieve all of this using the loops and the if control construct. Yes, this episode is not an independent episode. All of those who have not watched the previous episode, I would insist you to watch it, and for those who have watched, let us proceed and see how we can achieve all of this using the loops and the if control construct. Even before I tell you how to convert this to a programming code, let me tell you that totally we had considered 6 numbers for sorting. In other words, the value of n for me is 6. If you would carefully notice each of these steps, you would realize that I have taken a total of 5 iterations in order to finally sort the numbers in the ascending order. You can notice that that was our iteration number 0, iteration number 1, 2, 3 and 4, which means I have taken a total of 5 iterations numbered 0 to 4. And not just that, if you further carefully notice that we have performed certain number of comparisons in each iteration. How many comparisons have I really performed in each of these iterations is what I have to tell you next. In my 0th iteration, I have performed a total of 5 comparisons. Similarly, in the first iteration, I have performed 4 comparisons. Next, 3 comparisons, 2 comparisons and 1 comparison. Anyway, if you'll ask me to number the comparisons as well, it's fine that in the 0th iteration, I've had the 0th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd and the 4th comparison. Similarly, in the first iteration, I've had the 0th, 1st, 2nd and the 3rd comparison, and similarly in the next one I had the 0th, 1st and the 2nd comparison and so on. Anyway, the larger question that you have at the back of your mind is that all of this that I have told, how to convert it to programming code, that is what I will have to tell you next. If I'll have to convert all of this to the programming code, then obviously I will have to make use of loops as well as the if control construct. And if in case I have to make use of the loops, then I will also have to decide upon the loop index variables. So to suit my needs of converting this to the programming code, what I do is that I would make use of a loop index variable I, which is going to keep track of the number of iterations that I have done, and also another loop index variable called J, which is going to keep track of the number of comparisons within each iteration. Anyway, by making use of the loops, the if control construct and the loop index variable, how is it that we can convert this? Let me proceed. For the time being, forget about the comparisons. Let's focus only on the iterations. And you know that it is the loop index variable I which I have designated to take care of the number of iterations, and the initial value of I, as you can notice, is going to be 0. And the final value of I is going to be 4. And as the iterations proceed, the value of I is incrementing as well. Now, all of this I need to specify it through a programming code, through a loop. And which loop to use? Well, you can make use of either the for loop or the while loop or the do while loop, but I would prefer using the for loop because of its simple syntax. And all these 3 information, that the initial value of I is 0, final value of I is 4, and the value of I increments as I proceed through the process, all of this can be represented using a loop like this. Yes, it is such a simple syntax, but then there is a problem that in the for loop, this cannot be an assignment statement, rather it has to be a relational operator, and hence I would not say it as I is equal to 4, rather I would be saying it as I less than or equal to 4. But otherwise, I am sure you can easily correlate the relationship between whatever I have told there pictorially and whatever I have represented here in the form of a code. As your trainer, there is another input that I need to give to you, that you as a programmer, whenever you are giving this condition, never ever be very specific. You have to be writing it in generic terms. What I mean to say is that instead of saying it as I less than or equal to 4, it is better you write it as I less than or equal to n minus 2. Well, I have not violated any of the mathematical rules. After all, the value of n is 6. and 6 minus 2 happens to be 4, which means it is the same as whatever I had previously written, just that I have generalized and written it, and that is what you as a programmer have to be careful about. Now that the iteration part of the sorting has been taken care, what we have to focus is on the comparisons part, and this was the comparisons summary. And if you would carefully notice that within each iteration there are certain number of comparisons, which means within this loop there has to be another loop which takes care of the comparisons. And not just that, to take care of the comparisons we have designated the loop index variable j, and you as a programmer have to think about what the initial value of j is going to be, what the final value of j is going to be, and whether really j has to be incremented or decremented. That is what we need to decide. As you can notice, in each case the value of j initially happens to be 0, and hence in the programming code this is the way I can be representing it. But the real challenge is that what is the final value of j, because as you can notice that in that case the final value of j is 4. So should I be writing it like this? Or in the next case the final value of j is 3, which means should I be writing it like this? Or in the next case the final value of j is 2, and so on. So what really should I be writing here is the question which I need to answer. But for the time being, let it remain as it is, and I'll take up the third issue of whether really j has to be incremented or decremented. Well, that is quite simple, that obviously the value of j has to be incremented, because nowhere have we decremented anything in the entire process of sorting. You know that as I have proceeded ahead with the sorting, I have performed the 0th and then the first and then the second and then the third and then the fourth comparison. Similarly, in the next case, it is 0th comparison, first, second and third, which means obviously the value of j has to increment, and that in the programming code is represented like this. So I'm sure you are now understanding as to how all of this can be represented in the programming code like this. But the next challenge is what really has to be written inside these loops. Let me tell you. Within the loop, what I really have to write is this. Yes, hope you recollect. I have spoken about it in the previous episode, and not just that, whatever in general I have told there, technically this is what it meant. Well, whatever I have told here is what you've been doing all through in these steps. What have we been doing in case of bubble sort? That each time we have compared if the number to the left is greater than the number to the right, and if indeed it is, we have swapped it. Technically speaking, what we have done is that if the number at the jth position happens to be greater than the number at the j plus 1th position, then we have swapped, which means this is the activity which we have done, and this is what we need to include it within the loop. Yes, of course, I have to replace this one line called swap with the code for swapping, and the 3 lines of code which would help me to swap is this. And just in case you have a question as to how these 3 lines would help us to swap, well, it is a simple piece of code. In other words, this is how I can programmatically represent whatever activity I have done over here. I had a few iterations. Within the iterations, I had the comparison, and whenever the condition in the comparison, that is when the number to the left is greater than the number to the right occurred, I have swapped. That is what basically I have done everywhere here, and all of that information has been captured in this code. You know, the outer loop is taking care of the number of iterations, the inner is taking care of the number of comparisons, and within each of this, each time I am verifying, and if in case there is a need, I am swapping it as well. So this is the way we can convert all of this to programming code, but the larger challenge still remains as to what is the upper limit of the value of j. Let me clarify that. If you really have to fill in that question mark, all that you have to have is simple mathematics knowledge and some common sense. What I mean by that, let me tell you. Look at the upper limit of j in each of these cases. And also have a look at the iteration number and see if you can write a mathematical equation out of the iteration number and the upper limit of j. Well, if you are confused, let me help out. If you will add the iteration number to the upper limit of j, the sum comes up to 4. Yes, you can notice that in the first case, 0 plus 4 happens to be 4. In the next case, 1 plus 3 happens to be 4. In the next case, 2 plus 2 happens to be 4, and then 3 plus 1 happens to be 4, and 4 plus 0 happens to be 4. And that is what you as a programmer has to look into. To shape yourself as a good programmer, some basic mathematics is all that is needed really. So whatever here you have noticed, I can always express it in the form of a programming code like this. Yes, I plus j happens to be 4. After all, I represents the iteration number and j represents the comparison. And in other words, when you are adding the iteration number with the upper limit of the number of comparisons, it sums up to 4. And in other words, j value happens to be 4 minus I. And that is what I would be replacing here. And I've also told you that you should always express it in general. Never ever should you be specific, which means that I would not write 4 as 4. Rather, I would be writing it as n minus 2. In other words, the value of j is now equal to n minus 2 minus I. And hope you recollect that we cannot have an assignment statement there. We have to have a relational operator, which means that j should be less than or equal to n minus 2 minus I, because that is the expectation of the for loop. Anyway, I am now sure you've been able to understand as to how each of the things present here can be converted to the programming code. But if you'll ask me, is this code in C or in C++ or in Java or which programming language? Well, this code would work perfectly fine on all programming languages. And if you really want to have the complete program coded in top 3 languages, then watch my next episode.